Let's talk about something most people completely misunderstand. What makes someone stay in your mind long after the conversation ends? It's not about being the most attractive person in the room. It's not even about what you wear or how often you text back. Connection over control. That's where real attraction begins. Most people spend their energy trying to control how someone feels about them. They overthink every message, every pause, every word, trying to make the other person respond a certain way. They ask questions like, how do I make him want me more? Or how do I keep him interested? But the truth is, the moment you start trying to control someone's attraction to you, you actually start to lose it. Because attraction is never born out of control, it's born out of connection. When you're trying to control someone's perception of you, you stop being yourself. You shift from being present and authentic to performing, and that performance might impress for a moment. It might even spark curiosity, but it can't sustain genuine connection. People sense when you're trying too hard. They feel the tension in your tone, the hesitation in your responses, and the subtle insecurity behind your words. And that's when something in them starts to pull away, even if they can't explain why. But when you move from control to connection, everything changes. Instead of thinking, what should I say to get his attention? You start asking, what can I say to understand him better? That shift from manipulation to meaning creates an entirely different energy between you. Connection is about presence. It's about truly listening, responding honestly, and allowing moments to unfold without forcing an outcome. When you do that, people don't just remember what you said. They remember how they felt when they were with you. Here's what's powerful about this idea. Connection doesn't require perfection. You don't need to have the right lines or a perfect image. You just need to show up with intention. You need to make the other person feel that you're genuinely there, not to get something from them, but to experience something with them. The irony is that when you stop chasing control, you gain influence, because connection naturally pulls people closer. It makes them curious about you, drawn to your energy, and comfortable enough to open up. Think about the people you can't stop thinking about. It's rarely because they said something clever. It's because at some point you felt safe with them. You felt understood, seen, and accepted. Those feelings create a deep emotional imprint, one that lingers long after the conversation ends. That's what true connection does. It bypasses logic and lodges itself in emotion. And emotion is what keeps people coming back. When you approach attraction with control, your goal is external. You want to get a reaction. But when you approach it through connection, your goal becomes internal. You want to feel something genuine. That's the energy people fall for. It's calm, grounded, and confident. You're not trying to win someone over. You're inviting them into your world. You're showing that you're comfortable enough with yourself not to chase or persuade, and that's magnetic. Control creates pressure. Connection creates ease. And ease is the one thing people crave in relationships, but rarely find. When you give someone that sense of emotional ease, when they can be themselves around you without fear of judgment or performance, they start associating you with comfort and warmth. And that association grows stronger every time you interact. So if you want someone to think about you nonstop, don't focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can create meaningful conversations, create laughter, create moments where both of you feel alive, curious, and understood. Control may give you temporary attention, but connection builds lasting impact. Connection over control isn't just a dating strategy. It's a mindset. It's about trusting that when you show up as your authentic self, relaxed, curious, and confident, the right person won't need to be convinced to stay. They'll want to, because connection, once felt, becomes unforgettable. The power of emotional anchoring is one of the most overlooked aspects of attraction. We often think people remember us for what we look like, what we say, or how often we text. But in truth, people remember us for how we make them feel. Every interaction you have with someone leaves behind an emotional trace, a small imprint of the energy you carried in that moment. That imprint determines whether they'll think of you again with warmth, curiosity, or complete indifference. And this is where emotional anchoring becomes so powerful. Emotional anchoring means connecting a specific emotion to your presence. It's when someone feels a rush of calm, excitement, or joy. The moment your name pops up on their screen, it's not about tricking anyone. It's about intentionally creating moments that evoke emotion. Humans are emotional creatures. We don't make decisions logically. Even when we think we do, we make them based on what feels right. So if your interactions consistently trigger positive emotions, appreciation, ease, curiosity, that person will naturally associate those feelings with you. Imagine two different kinds of conversations. In one, someone is trying hard to impress. They're witty, they're charming, but everything feels rehearsed. In the other, someone listens with genuine attention, laughs freely, and responds with warmth. Who do you think leaves the stronger emotional mark? It's the second person because their energy creates safety and connection. You can't fake that kind of authenticity. It's the emotional resonance that lingers long after the words are forgotten. When you're aware of emotional anchoring, you start communicating with intention. Instead of thinking about what you want to get from the interaction, you focus on what you want the other person to feel. Do you want them to feel seen, relaxed, inspired, desired? Once you define that, your tone, your words, even your pauses start aligning naturally with that emotional goal. That's when your presence becomes unforgettable, because it's tied to a feeling they crave. Think of how scent works. You might smell a perfume years later and instantly remember a specific person or moment. Emotions work the same way. When you evoke a consistent emotional scent, whether it's warmth, confidence, or light-hearted playfulness, you become that emotional memory for someone else. They may not even realize why they're drawn to you. They just know they feel good when you're around. That's emotional anchoring in action. It's important to remember that anchoring doesn't come from grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It's built in small, genuine interactions. The way you laugh at his story, the way you say his name, the calm you bring to a stressful conversation, those are emotional anchors. Over time, they create a pattern. When he feels calm, he thinks of you. When he wants comfort, he reaches for you. When he's excited about something, he wants to tell you first. Because somewhere along the way, your presence became linked to his most fulfilling emotions. This kind of emotional connection isn't about dependence, it's about resonance. You're not making him feel something he doesn't already have. You're amplifying what's already within him. The goal isn't to manipulate emotions, but to awaken them genuinely. When you bring positive energy into someone's life consistently, you're teaching their heart to recognize your presence as something safe and rewarding. That's why they think about you. Not because you ask them to, but because it feels good to. The beauty of emotional anchoring is that it's effortless when it's real. You don't need to craft perfect lines or constantly be on. You just need to show up authentically. With emotional awareness, ask yourself in every interaction, what emotion am I leaving behind right now? If you can consistently leave people feeling lighter, calmer, or more valued than before, you'll never be forgotten. It's not the words that echo in someone's mind. It's the emotion that stays in their heart. That's the true power of emotional anchoring. The ability to be remembered not by effort, but by the way you made someone feel. The three magic key words are not about clever phrasing or secret psychology. They are about emotional truth. When you say something that reaches beyond the surface, something that touches a person's core need to feel valued, seen, and safe, you create an instant emotional spark that lingers. These key words work not because they manipulate, but because they validate, they show the other person that you're not just hearing them, you're feeling them. And that is what makes someone think about you long after you've stopped speaking. The first emotional key is the power of acknowledgement. So many people walk through their day feeling unnoticed. They do things for others, they try, they give, yet rarely does anyone stop to truly see them. When you look at someone and genuinely say, I appreciate that, you're giving them something deeply rare. Recognition. You're not just complimenting them, you're acknowledging their effort, their thought, their energy. That phrase, simple as it is, hits a human need that runs deeper than attraction. It taps into belonging and worth. When someone feels appreciated by you, they begin to see you differently, not as just another person in their day, but as someone who understands the value they bring to the world. That emotional response creates a memory. The second emotional key lies in curiosity. Saying that's interesting may sound ordinary, but the meaning behind it is extraordinary when it's sincere. Those words open the door for connection because they tell the other person, I want to know more about you. So much of modern communication is built around waiting for your turn to speak, not listening to understand. When you break that pattern, when you respond with genuine curiosity, you make the person feel important. You make them feel that their thoughts, experiences, and stories matter, that small validation triggers emotional investment. It turns a normal exchange into something that feels alive. And that's why curiosity is magnetic. People don't obsess over those who impress them. They obsess over those who see them. The third emotional key is comfort. When you say, take your time, you're not just using polite words, you're communicating emotional stability. You're saying, I'm not here to pressure you. I'm not desperate for your response. I trust your pace. Those words carry confidence, and confidence wrapped in kindness is irresistible. In a world where everyone rushes to be heard, giving someone time and space is refreshing. It builds trust, and trust builds emotional safety. That's what keeps someone thinking about you. Not the rush of intensity, but the calm of being understood. You become a source of peace in a noisy world, and people always return to what brings them peace. What's important to understand is that these phrases only work when they are backed by authenticity. You can't say, I appreciate that if you don't mean it. You can't say that's interesting just to sound engaged. And you can't tell someone to take your time if you're secretly frustrated. The impact of these words lies in the energy behind them. They reflect your inner calm, your emotional awareness, and your respect for connection. That's what gives them power. When you start communicating this way with emotional presence and sincerity, people begin to associate you with warmth and clarity. They start looking forward to hearing from you because every conversation leaves them feeling better about themselves. These words create emotional anchors not through intensity, but through consistency. Over time, you become the person they feel understood by, safe with, and drawn to without even knowing why. So the three magic keywords are not about memorizing lines. They're about embodying a mindset, one that values appreciation, curiosity, and calm confidence. These are the ingredients of real emotional attraction. Because when you speak with that kind of awareness, you don't just capture attention for a moment. You capture the heart for much longer, and that's when someone begins to think about you. Not because of what you said, but because of how you made them feel every time you spoke. Scarcity meets warmth. It's the balance that makes someone unforgettable. It's the dance between being emotionally available yet self-contained, between showing interest without losing your individuality. Most people think attraction comes from constant attention, endless communication, or proving their worth. But real attraction thrives in contrast, in the gentle tension between closeness and independence. When you master the art of combining warmth with scarcity, you create an emotional rhythm that draws someone in, not through pressure, but through curiosity and respect. Warmth is what opens the heart. It's the way you listen, the tone of your voice, the softness in your responses, and the genuine energy you bring into a conversation. Warmth tells someone, you're safe here. You can be yourself. It builds emotional comfort, and comfort is what allows connection to grow. People fall for warmth because it makes them feel understood. It dissolves their defenses. When you offer that warmth sincerely, you become someone who radiates calm and empathy, someone people naturally gravitate toward, but warmth alone isn't enough to keep attraction alive. If warmth is constant without boundaries, it can lose its impact. When you give all your time, all your attention, and all your emotional energy without balance, it stops feeling special. That's where scarcity enters. Scarcity isn't about playing games or withholding affection. It's about maintaining your self-respect and your sense of purpose outside the relationship. It's about showing that you have a life, goals, passions, and peace that exist with or without someone's attention. That quiet independence creates mystery, not because you're hiding anything, but because you're not dependent on validation. People are drawn to what feels rare, not in a material sense, but emotionally. Confidence wrapped in warmth is rare. Empathy without neediness is rare. That balance sends a powerful message. I enjoy connecting with you, but I don't need your attention to feel whole. It's that emotional steadiness that captures interest and keeps it. Because when someone senses that you can be warm and open yet grounded and self-assured, they feel both safe and challenged. And that duality is magnetic. The beauty of scarcity and warmth together is that they create emotional depth. When you're kind, present, and giving, you make someone feel valued. When you then take time for yourself, pursue your passions, or simply hold space in silence, you remind them that your energy isn't something to take for granted. You teach them without words that connection with you is a privilege, not an entitlement. That contrast keeps you intriguing. It makes your presence something they look forward to, and your absence something they feel. Think about it. When you meet someone who's constantly available, always agreeing, always present, it feels comfortable at first, but predictable over time. There's no anticipation, no space for curiosity. On the other hand, when someone is distant or emotionally cold, there's mystery but no comfort. The real magic happens in between. When you can give warmth generously, yet still protect your emotional space, you create both security and intrigue. You become the person who makes someone feel good, yet still keeps them wanting to know more. Scarcity with warmth doesn't mean silence or detachment. It means intentional presence. It's replying when you actually have something to say, showing up with genuine energy instead of obligation, and not over-explaining when you need space. It's letting someone see your kindness, but not mistaking that kindness for constant availability. That boundary doesn't push people away. It actually deepens their appreciation. Because what's freely available all the time loses value, but what's authentic and balanced becomes priceless. The strongest connections are not those built on constant contact, but on consistent emotional quality. When you show warmth in your words and independence in your actions, you create a feeling that's hard to replace. People remember those who made them feel emotionally safe and mentally stimulated at the same time. They remember the balance, the feeling that you cared deeply yet stood firmly in your own world. That's the essence of true attraction, not need but choice. Let your warmth make people feel seen, and let your scarcity remind them that you are rare. That combination doesn't just make someone think about you, it makes them value you. And once someone values your energy, they'll never treat it as ordinary again. Consistency creates obsession, not the kind that's born from chaos or uncertainty, but the kind rooted in trust, emotional safety, and authenticity. We often assume that to keep someone interested, we need to constantly surprise them, play hard to get, or keep them guessing. But the truth is, what people find irresistible is emotional stability. When your presence consistently delivers a sense of peace, clarity, and comfort, you become their emotional anchor. You become the person they turn to when everything else feels unpredictable. That kind of consistency doesn't just attract attention, it earns loyalty. Consistency is powerful because it builds emotional trust. Every time you show up in the same calm, grounded way, you send a message. You can rely on me to be who I am. In a world full of mixed signals, that reliability becomes magnetic. It's not about being predictable in a boring way. It's about being emotionally steady in a world that feels anything but. When someone knows that your energy is genuine, that your kindness isn't temporary, your interest isn't conditional, and your affection isn't a tactic, they relax. And that relaxation leads to attachment. People think about what brings them peace. They crave what makes them feel safe. The irony is that inconsistency often gets mistaken for excitement. The push and pull, the sudden silence followed by attention, it creates short-term adrenaline, but long-term exhaustion. Consistency, on the other hand, creates comfort that grows deeper with time. It allows someone to feel secure enough to open up, to be vulnerable, and to trust that your presence won't suddenly disappear. And that trust transforms into emotional investment. You become the person whose messages they look forward to, whose voice feels like home, whose energy they miss when it's not there. But consistency doesn't mean being constantly available or saying yes to everything. It means showing up authentically, even when it's inconvenient. It's about aligning your actions with your words. If you say you care, you show it. Not through grand gestures, but through the small, everyday things that prove you mean what you say. A thoughtful message, a genuine compliment, a moment of undivided attention. Those repeated actions are what build emotional credibility. Over time, that credibility becomes desire because trust is attractive. When your energy is consistent, people start to associate you with stability. They begin to notice that every time they talk to you, they feel calmer, happier, more centered. That emotional association grows stronger with repetition. And without realizing it, they start seeking that feeling. They check their phone hoping to see your name. They replay your conversations. They remember the tone of your voice because the mind always returns to what feels emotionally safe. That's how obsession begins, not through chaos, but through calm. Consistency also shows confidence. It says, I don't need to change who I am to keep your attention. When you remain the same, kind, self-assured, emotionally grounded, regardless of whether things are going smoothly or not, you communicate strength. You show that your emotions aren't dependent on external validation, that independence makes people respect you more. It tells them you're not chasing connection from insecurity, but offering it from abundance. And that's incredibly rare. Consistency becomes the foundation of emotional attraction. It's what transforms chemistry into connection and connection into something lasting. Because anyone can make someone feel something once, but it takes emotional depth and awareness to make someone feel it again and again. When you consistently bring positivity, understanding, and calm energy into someone's life, you train their heart to recognize your presence as a source of good feelings. That's why consistency creates obsession. It's not about control or intensity. It's about reliability. It's about becoming the one thing in their world that feels certain, steady, and true. When you do that, you don't have to chase attention. It comes to you naturally. Because in a world of fleeting interest and emotional noise, consistency isn't ordinary. It's extraordinary. And the person who offers that becomes unforgettable. Attraction isn't a game of clever words or strategic timing. It's an expression of emotional intelligence. When you understand connection over control, when you learn the power of emotional anchoring, when you speak those three key words with sincerity, when you balance warmth with self-respect, and when you remain consistent in your energy, you stop chasing attention and start inspiring it. You no longer have to make someone think about you. They naturally do because you represent something rare. Real connection isn't built through intensity or mystery alone. It's built through presence. It's the way you make someone feel calm yet curious, safe yet intrigued. That's the magic combination that lingers in the heart. The truth is, people don't remember everything you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. So when your presence leaves a trail of peace, warmth, and authenticity, you become unforgettable without even trying. The real magic words are not the ones that sound perfect. They are the ones that come from a grounded, confident, and kind place. Because in the end, attraction that lasts isn't born from manipulation. It's born from meaning. And when you speak, act, and love from that place of truth, you don't just capture someone's attention, you capture their heart.